Al, it's time to build a big old giant robot.
A robot, big old robot.
Big old robot reaches
Cool.
all high to the sky.
He's thick.
Oh boy, is he thick. With two C's.
Yep.
Uh, Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
This is episode number 240. And we're talking about a video game today
Uh-huh.
that's got to deal with a bunch of robots.
Lots of robots.
Lots of robots.
And some video games starring robots inside the video game with robots.
Robots inside of robots inside of robots.
Robotception.
Thank you.
Our brain cell at work.
Single brain cell at work once again.
Woo!
Yes, we were talking about Robotics Notes.
Mhm.
This is a game in the Science Adventure series, the same series that brought you Steins Gate
Yay!
in those games. So it is similar in that vein
Mm-hmm.
in terms of it being a weird sci-fi game.
Mm-hmm.
So you got that going for you. We played the Robotics Notes Elite version, which is the only version you can play officially localized in the West. There might have been fan translations of the original. I don't know for certain.
I don't know either.
Because I know Steins Gate had one before it got thrown out everywhere. But I think that was because it had a PC version. I don't know if this had a PC version prior to the Elite release. So I don't know. Either way, that is the version that is out in the West. That is the one we played. I believe it's basically the same as the original, except the Elite version adds in scenes from the anime as like kind of like interstitial little scenes, essentially. So anytime there was like animation or anything like that, I believe that's just taken from the anime. Everything else, I believe, is the same. So like the 3D models and everything, that was in the original game as well. So it's not like a Steins Gate Elite scenario where they basically just like replaced all the art and all that stuff.
No, I went to watch an original playthrough of it, and the 3D models were all the same.
Mm-hmm.
So on the 360.
Yeah, that's right. So let's talk about when this game came out originally. As you said, it came out in Japan on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 on June 28th, 2012. A very late era Japanese-only 360 game.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which, though it makes sense because, like, you know, Steins Gate came out in 360. So, like, this team had, you know, experience working on the 360. So I guess they're just like, we'll just throw it out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Came to the Vita on June 26th, 2014.
I got to play it on the Vita, technically.
You did technically get to play it on the Vita.
Anyway.
Came to Switch and PS4 in Japan on January 31st, 2019, which I believe is the Elite version. And then came over here on October 13th, 2020 in Europe and on October 16th, 2020. And then also came out on PC worldwide on October 13th, 2020.
I got this when it came out in October 2020, but I mentioned it to you before. Like, I got it, but then Cold Steel 4 was like about to drop at the same time, and I was like, I can't dedicate a lot of time to this because I'm gonna drop it for Cold Steel and then I'm gonna forget everything that I did. So I just never started it until you said you were playing it, and then I was like, okay, I'll play it again then.
Yeah, because I remember, I didn't remember really if like you would play this or not. I think I might have remembered like you getting it or something, and then like it went on sale pretty good for both games, and I was like, did you play this? And you're like, no. And I was like, they would have get this.
I started it, but that's it. And I got
Yeah.
maybe like 10 minutes in.
Yeah, so like you really didn't experience much of anything.
Nope.
So not really anything you could be like, oh yes, I've played this and here's how it goes or anything like that. No. We were basically both starting from square one.
Yep. Thanks, Cold Steel.
Yep. So yeah, you decided to play this because started playing it, and yeah, that's where we are today. Let's talk a little bit about development and release of this game.
Okay. I will tell you, it also had a really cool physical version that came out
Mm-hmm.
here. Came with like the phone droid uh thing. Like it's a little box that's a phone droid. It has little pins in it. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I forgot what else came in it. I could go over there and get it, but that requires me to get up. So
Who wants to do that?
I'll look it up on the internet while you're talking about development.
It's true. Planning an original concept and basic story of Robotics Notes was handled by Chiyomaru Shikura, which I believe is like just the main writer for these games in general. Naotaka Hayashi is the scenario writer for the game, and Tatsuya Matsubara the producer. The character designs are done by Tomonori Fukuda, and the mechanical designs, which is the mech designs, are done by Makoto Ishiwata. Composer of the game is Takeshi Abo. Shikura has been working on this game as early as July 2010. The team received development support from the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, aka JAXA. And according to Shikura, this allowed the game's sciences and themes to better reflect reality. So yeah, I believe like the Space Center, like JAXA, all of those are real things.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think. Nitro Plus also provided assistance with the game. Robotics Notes features 3D visuals, and the development team were aiming for high-quality 3D models like Catherine and Idolmaster 2, you know, the most prominent 3D model video games on the market in 2012.
Wow.
The game is described by the developers as an augmented science adventure. Sure.
Augmented.
Augmented. Robotics Notes was announced through 5PB's official website on December 22nd, 2010, noting that details about the game would appear in the interview with Shikura, the CEO of 5PB, featured in the issue of Famitsu magazine that was being sold on the same day. Robotics Notes is the third entry in the Science Adventure series, following the release of Chaos Head in 2008 and Steins Gate in 2009. When the target platform for the game had not yet been announced, Shikura had said that they were not going to let down the fans who had supported their past works in the Science Adventure series, which I guess is why it's on the 360. He also said they were aiming for release sometime in 2011. The game was released for both PS3 and 360 on June 28, 2012. PS3 version allows for remote play with the Vita. A Vita port was released on June 26, 2014 under the name Robotics Notes Elite. So that's the first version, I guess, of Elite, adding new features and animated scenes. Characters in the enhanced version were remodeled and new animated scenes were added. A Switch version of Robotics Notes Elite was announced by Shikura through a live stream in 2018. Both it and a PlayStation 4 version were announced on January 31st, 2019 as Robotics Notes HD, or Robotics Notes Elite HD in a double pack with the sequel Robotics Notes Dash. In 2018, Shikura said that a Western release of the game was under consideration. English versions of Elite and Dash were announced by Spike Chunsoft at Anime Expo 2019 and were released worldwide for PC and everything else on October 13, 2020. The PS4 and Switch versions were released in a bundle on the same day in North America and October 16th in Europe. So there you go.
So I looked it up, and it is, the box is the phone droid, which I already mentioned. It's just like the outline that you see in the game. The pins are, we have, let's see, Daru doing his like cute pose. We have the president, the VP robot, and then we have Kai, and then we have Aki as the other two pins. So that's a pretty interesting combination there.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense to have like the two main characters there, but the VP and well, I guess Daru would be a natural fit too, since he's a pretty big selling point for the second one.
He's the main character of the second one, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, we played through the first game. We've both kind of dabbled, I think, with the second game, but not really that far into it quite yet. But we've gone through the entirety of the first game. This first game also got an anime adaptation like same year, which is kind of wild to think. There's also been multiple manga adaptations as well. And there was also a stage play, which would be noteworthy for us because of who they got to play Akiho.
Oh?
One Arisa Komiya.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh.
It's an interesting choice there.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Which I've seen screenshots of that stage play, and they have like an actual model of the VP robot just like sitting
Really?
out there. Yeah, it's real funny.
Ah. That's pretty cool.
which is interesting because like there is a Love Live connection via that, but then the actual voice cast of this game has like two Love Live connections of a different vein
Yes.
because Akiho is voiced by Yoshino Nanjo and Juna is voiced by Sora Tokui, which both of them like they don't sound like their Love Live characters at all.
You can
So
hear some of Nico
mhm.
and Sora, but not often.
So like if you didn't know, you probably would not realize
No.
given just how different their voices are in this. So yeah, let's talk about this here video game.
Wow, she didn't look anything like herself when she's Akiho.
I think it's because like the stage play happened like a long time ago, so she was much younger.
Yeah.
Like this, I think this was definitely pre Sunshine.
She was a baby.
Aw,
Happened in
baby.
2013.
Yeah, so definitely pre Sunshine.
Yeah. Like she looks like an infant
Mm-hmm.
and looks nothing like herself. It's crazy.
8 years ago.
God. How old is she actually?
Let's look. She was born in '94, so she's 27.
Oh my God.
So she would have been like 18 when she did this.
Holy crap. Wilden.
Big
Yeah,
Wilden.
she looks like an actual infant there. Like she does not look like herself. But again, I probably don't look as much like myself when I was 18 as I do now either. So
That's what getting older does to you.
yeah, it's a thing. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Love Live all over the place here.
Love Live is all over the place. That is true, and that's for true.
As it should be.
So yeah, this game starts off real slow.
Real slow. It takes a while to kick in.
Yeah, because like a good majority of just like the first part of this game is just real normal stuff. Like, you are learning about the characters of Kaito and Akiho, how they're in the robotics club and everything, and how Akiho's like dream is to build a giant robot and everything, and then they have to like enter into this hobby robots competition in order to save the club because the vice principal just doesn't like the club.
And she also asked for way too much money.
Yes. So they have to do that, and everything's like very normal. It's like, getting prepped for that, getting a robot and all this sort of stuff, and learning all of that and learning controls.
Hanging out with
and
Doc and figuring out how to get batteries.
yeah, so it's like it's all like just relatively normal stuff that's happening. Like none of like the weirdness really creeps out until after you go through like the competition and everything.
Yep. Yeah, it takes a bit to get going, and it doesn't help. And I mentioned this to you as well. Kaito's an
Mm-hmm.
like we play as a very unlikable dude the whole time.
Yeah.
Like he gets better, but like God, the whole time I'm just like, you're insufferable. Why does anyone want to be around you? God. Like if I were Akio, I would just drop that dude by now.
Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
Oofa doofa.
Yeah. So like the whole time she's like doing her thing, the stuff, and he's in the club and he's just like, all right, I'm over here playing Kill Ballad or whatever it's called. I think that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Not helping her, not hanging out with her, just there.
Existing.
And anytime anybody like wants something from him, even if it's a favor, he's like, all right, well, you got to beat me at the game first. It's like, oh my God, I hate you so much. God, you're insufferable. So it doesn't help that has a very slow start, and also we're just a huge flaming.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I like Akiho, so I felt bad because it was like we're being mean to her.
Yeah.
I don't want to be mean to her. She
She's
seems
nice.
nice. She's trying so hard.
She's trying her best.
She just likes the big robot anime.
Nothing wrong with that.
Says Jared, who
Yeah.
likes the big robot anime.
So I wonder, because like you are not someone who watches a bunch of giant robot anime.
No, no, I'm not. I've watched the one episode with you.
Yeah.
What else would count as giant robot anime that I've seen maybe?
I mean, have you watched Evangelion?
Yeah, I have watched that.
That's giant robot anime.
That's true, but it's also Evangelion, so I have hot takes on that one. So yeah, I probably have just watched that and then the one episode you had me watch for Christmas.
So like a lot of like I think the tropes and everything and just like the overall like pacing and the way the plot kind of like reveals itself probably doesn't do a whole lot for you as it would for me in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at this the way the entirety of this game sets out and like just the plot points that it hits and just like those are just, you know, that's how robot anime works. Whereas for you, you're probably just like, okay, yeah, this is a story.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting dichotomy here between the two of us in terms of
Yeah.
how we approach this game. Because a lot of this, like later on, there's a lot of just like this is an open love letter to just like robot anime.
Nice.
So for like you would just be like, okay, yeah, they're just doing this stuff and everything. Yep, doing this. This is the thing they're doing. And I'm like, yeah, I completely understand why they're doing this. This is what this means and everything.
Nice.
So yeah, I guess we'll address some of those moments later on when they actually start to come up.
Happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna rebuild the VP and go fight some robots
Mhm.
and meet a flamboyant fella who is also fighting robots.
Yes. Also, before that, since they're doing this in such short fashion, they have to like learn how to control the hobby robot and everything. And Kaito like messages the creator of Kill Ballad on a whim, is like, "Hey, can you like just send me the source code so I could use this to do this competition?" And like the creator like emails him back and is like, "All right,
LOL, here you go.
here you go." And they're like, "Okay, cool. I guess
They
we'll do
implement.
this." Yeah. Also, I believe at some point we learned that like both Akiho and Kaito have like this condition where
That elephant mouse or mouse elephant? I think it's elephant mouse.
where Akiho basically like she has like an attack, she like everything like slows down for her. Or no, it goes very fast
No, it
for her.
speeds up for
Speeds
her.
up for her. And if Kaito has one, everything slows down for him. So like he calls like hers I think like fast forward and his is like slow-mo.
Yeah.
And it's all due to this like attack that happened on this boat that they were on where like everyone else seemed to come away relatively unharmed, but they like were out of it for like 3 days until they came to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. That's an important thing.
It is an important thing. Also, I guess the other important thing is that Kaito is trying to be the best at Kill Ballad, the fighting game based off of the robot anime.
Gunvarel.
Gunvarel, yes. And so he is 5th in the leaderboard.
Yes.
So that's why he wanted the control scheme for the robot, is that since he's good at that and he has really good reaction speed, like they feel like he has a shot at winning it if he can use that control scheme. And he also refuses to do it unless he has that control scheme.
Yeah.
So she also edits the VP to have a special move.
Which is just like just drops on his butt and just like goes like zooming at them. It's like that's probably not a great idea, but all right.
All right. She does her best.
She does her best. They head off to Tokyo to go fight in this tournament with their teacher. who just like is the most unreliable person.
Pro tip.
Pro tip: I'm not gonna help you.
Nope. He just disappears for a while and
They
like
don't.
every single
They get
time.
they get to Tokyo. They don't have a hotel they can go to, so they like stay in a McDonald's.
Yeah.
And
And
he's
they're
just
both
like,
like, oh
eh.
God, this is bad because like we might have an attack because we can't get good rest. Oh no.
Mhm.
He's like, eh.
But they go through like the first day of the tournament and are able to like win all their matches and become kind of this like underdog sensation throughout the tournament because no one really knows who they are. But then people kind of put two and two together that it's the same club that Akiho's sister was ahead of 10 years ago, and she came in and won the competition 10 years prior with the same robot. So that
Yep.
immediately people are like, whoa, interesting. We get to the finals where they have to go up against the reigning champion, Mr. Pleiades,
Yeah.
who is their classmate Subaru in disguise,
He's very flamboyant in this
Mhm.
form.
which Kaito recognizes immediately. Everyone else is none the wiser.
Yeah, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No, I don't know. Just not that person. No."
The other's
And
just like,
then
"What
like,
are you talking about? That's clearly not him." And he's like,
no.
"Oh my god."
Super funny.
It's true. So he's able to, I think, win the first match because it's like a best
Mhm.
2 out of 3 match, but then gets destroyed in the second, and then I think he loses like 2 straight, or maybe he doesn't lose 2 straight because he has to win. It's 2 out of 3, so he'd have to win one there. So I think it's like 1-1
Yeah.
or something. Maybe he doesn't win the first one.
No, he wins the first one. I'm pretty sure.
Either way, so they get like where they have to win out essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and he has an attack there and is able to like dodge the bunker fire from Mr. Pleiades' big old robot, and then uses the special attack of Akiho's, but like it just knocks them both out.
Yep.
But because of that, they lose because their robot was the first to hit the floor, essentially. And then they get real sad because they're like, oh, well, we didn't win, so now the club's going to get disbanded.
Yep.
Also, on their flight home, the creator of Kill Ballad is on the flight home with them. And
Yep.
Kaito's like, huh? What? So they go back
Also,
to
she's a girl.
she's like a young
Teenage girl.
Yeah. They go back to school and the vice principal's like, all right, well, disbanding the club and everything. But then Kaito like manages to like pull a fast one and is like, hey, Subaru here is the actual winner and he's part of the club, so that means you can't disband the club because we technically won.
The agreement was that somebody in the robotics club wins the competition, and yeah, I mean, here he is. He won.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he just secretly like whispering to him like, I will tell everyone who you are if you don't go along with this.
He's like, Gah! So they're able to save the club essentially through blackmail and or not interrogation,
Intimidation.
Thank you. So yeah, that happens. Also, they technically get money as prize money for winning or for placing second, but later on, basically, the school just like freezes that so they don't have access to it for the entire year.
Yeah, it's supposed to go to the club's next year's budget.
After that, Akiho basically like tries to come up with an idea to like have JAXA help them complete the big robot build that they're doing,
Mhm.
which is like this big build of a. They're trying to recreate the main robot from Gunbarrel, and it's been a project in the robotics club for the last like 10 years. And Akiho really wants to finish it this year because like it was her sister who started it and everything, and she
And
wants
she's
to
about
see
to
it
graduate.
through. She's about to graduate and everything, so she wants to make sure that finishes up and everything. So she wants to do that, but also they need money to do that because they don't have money in the club.
Yeah,
So that's why
and
she's
Doc
trying to
is like, yeah, you owe us money all the
you
time.
owe me money, and she's basically trying to find people to like help, financially with this build and everything. So she goes and sees her dad, who's the president of the Tanegashima Space Center, and he's like, yeah, I can't do that.
Nope.
Not happening. Kaito inadvertently goes out to meet up with Frau, who's the creator of Gun Ballad, or of Kill Battle, excuse me, and it inadvertently turns out to be him having to like help her move into her hotel house that she buys.
Yeah, she buys an abandoned hotel as her new house and is like transferring to their school.
Mm-hmm. So he helps her do that, and then like she just disappears.
Yep.
And by that, she just stays in her room for like most of it.
Yep. Also, she is a giant perv. Like,
Oh yeah.
I thought Daru was bad, and then we got her, and I was like, oh no, no, Daru's like nothing to you, and he was bad.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yep.
Yikes.
After that, they're able to go get sponsorship from the Space Candy place because
Mr. Candy.
the teacher, that's the teacher's uncle, so he's able to like get them an in and everything. Subaru wants Kaito's help with the upcoming tournament in Las Vegas. He's like, "Hey, you're gonna help me do this. How did you do like the cool thing you did?" And he's like, I'm not telling you." Which apparently, I guess in the anime they say that happens on September 11th, which is very funny.
Oh, geez.
9/11, never forget.
Never forget.
Also, Kaito goes out to like the park to play Kill Ballad and everything because like it's just kind of his place to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like a weird interference happens with his phone droid.
He keeps getting like fax sounds.
Fax sounds happen out of it, and he hears a girl's voice coming out of it, and also he's getting these weird text messages that are just like garbled characters.
Gobbledygook.
Yeah. So he's just like, I gotta go.
Park's haunted. Park's haunted.
Park's haunted. So Kaito goes out and finds Juna, who is this girl that Akihito's tried to recruit to the club, but she's very timid and scared, but she's in the karate club as well. But he learns that like she is like
likes the occult and
she's a
things
fan
like
of the
that.
occult and conspiracy theories, so he like basically finds her and is like, "Do you know about a ghost at the park?" Anything like that? And then she takes him to a beach and is like, "Hey, do you want to see a dead whale?"
Do you hear about all those birds just falling out of the sky and dying?
You want to talk about the buzzer? UPB 76?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, I do." Let's talk about it. Which led me down a rabbit hole of looking up the Wikipedia page, which apparently UVB 76 has been very busy in the last year.
Oh, jeez.
With a lot of like non-buzzery communications coming out of it.
Oh, no.
Which is something.
Oh, God. Anything important?
I don't remember. I think it was just a lot of just like communications, like from someone to something else, which might have just been a thing of like a COVID thing.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I would think like why it's like super busy last year of all times.
Right. Somebody got bored.
Or is just like a way for them to communicate with people while everyone was kind of like trying to hunker down. Yeah. So there's that.
There's that.
Yep. So basically after that, Kaito goes back to the park. He ends up in an abandoned building where he finds this AI girl named Irie, who he's able to see through like the app that does like AR stuff. She then shows him like this hidden file that's in the building, which is by this dude named Ko Kimijima. It is the Kimijima's report number 1. All of these reports were supposedly created after his death, and it basically tells about like monopoles.
I thought they were created before his death.
Oh yeah, they would have to be before his death. They came out after his death, essentially.
Yeah, it was in case he died.
Yeah. That makes a lot more sense. He wouldn't be able to create these if he's dead.
Which he is. He's dead.
So yeah, like there's this whole cover up about what NASA discovered on the sun. Sun's about to go boom, and there's going to be all these like solar flares that happen in 2012, 2015, 2019, and 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So he finds this, and he's like,
some of that is accurate.
That's weird. He goes and talks to the lady at the convenience store about if she knew him, and she freaks out when he hears the name, or when she hears the name, and she's like, you shouldn't be getting involved in this stuff. After that, Juna joins the Robotics Club.
Team member get.
Team member get. There you go. Kaito goes and visits the AI girl again. He finds a strange underground room which has this weird glowing device, and then there's also like a microphone and a tape player next to it, which plays like the children's
Kagome.
Kagome, which is like the children's song or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Really, he's like, that's weird.
Anyway, and Juna had told him about like an event in Tokyo where people's phones had played Kagome.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I'm really creeped out by this.
Yeah. Frau joins the Robotics Club as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's also like, hey, Kaito, you need to help me find cheaters and kill Ballad. Also, I'll give you some programming help.
I think the top 3 are cheating.
So they're basically practicing to get ready for the Vegas tournament, and then Subaru's dad shows up and just like punches him in the face and is like, stop playing with robots. I'm going to destroy your robot.
I can't believe he just like
robots.
straight up punches him in the face. He's like, you're supposed to take after me and take up the fishing business.
Mm-hmm. And then Akio has an attack afterwards. Because she's upset.
I mean, that's valid. She just saw her sort of friend get punched in the face for helping her, basically. Even though he would never claim that he was helping her.
So yeah, after that we get a little bit more about the Kagome thing, where I think Juna kind of explains it and everything. Kaito goes to help with Frau and do some cheating stuff. And then Subaru shows up and is like, I gotta get rid of my robot. Real sad.
When they do the cheating stuff, none of the cheating programs are able to detect any cheating.
No.
And I think we also find out like Frau has like a small team in Tokyo that she deals with pretty regularly. That she's only met like a couple of them IRL, if I recall correctly. But anyway, like they're all just like nerds who live online. Like one, I think she said, is like a 38-year-old with a wife and a kid, but like also just stays inside all the time and helps her program.
She also mentions to Kaito about like the supposed last episode of Gunvera, which never aired because the staff apparently just all died right beforehand. And she's also like, hey, the director of that was my mom. People think she murdered them all. It's real messed up. I basically came here to try and find her because she was the last seen here.
Yeah.
Messed up.
Yikes.
Subaru destroys his robot, but he basically still helps out with the Robotics Club because he's just around.
He's gotta keep it secret.
They get new parts for Gun Build 1, and then Kaito hears some reports about some solar flares happening, and then Kagome starts playing through everyone's phone droids, and they get approached by a mysterious young lady.
Mysterious.
Which, like, the whole Kagome thing is very just freaky.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things you look at and be like, look, that could probably happen.
Yeah.
Because wasn't there the whole thing of, like, there was a fake test alert that went out in, like, Hawaii of, like, there's a missile coming to Hawaii, take cover. And then it was like, oh, by the way, this is a fake.
Yeah, that happened.
It's like, that's freaky.
Yep. Yeah, it was a whole thing that they were saying like there is a nuclear weapon coming to Hawaii. Take cover as best as you can. Yikes.
Very freaky.
Yikes. But yeah, it totally is plausible. And so like I think that makes it a little bit
more haunting.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I mean, like, they can do Amber Alerts and stuff like that all the time. Like, they could totally do something like this.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know who they is, but it could happen.
Them. Very
Spoopy.
spoopy. So they get taken to JAXA, which they think they get kidnapped. But
Yes,
then they
they
get
get
taken there. They're
kidnapped.
like, huh? And this young lady reveals herself to be Nai Tenoji, who is the young girl that was Mr. Braun's daughter in Steins Gate,
Yep. Yep.
which is wild. She now works for JAXA and is like, hey, you want to come build a robot with us? Nakio's like, no. I want to build my robot.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Kaito is able to find the next report, and he has to like go out into the middle of a typhoon and open up and close an antenna,
Yep.
and then nearly falls off the antenna tower and has
Yep.
an attack, and he's just like, but he's able to get saved by Akiho and some others who were basically told where he was and to go help him.
Yeah. Irie's the one who says it, right?
Yes. So he's able to get to the second file, which talks about the Committee of 300, the Human Cultivation Project, basically like trying to reduce the world's population from like 6 billion to 1 billion, use a bunch of propaganda to do so. And then it also is,
Order.
yeah, it also talks about how whenever Kagome plays, that is something the Committee of 300 is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you hear that, they are doing something.
It's some kind of experiment.
Mm-hmm. And you're just like, ah. We get a festival that happens where everyone except Kaito and Frau go out. They're in fighting more cheaters and everything. He introduces her to Irie and tells her a little bit about the reports and everything. The following day, they put the big robot together, the two halves, and stick it together.
Thick.
They do a test run in front of a bunch of people because Mr. Candy's like, let's bring out a bunch of people. And they put Kaito in the robot, and he's like,
It's hot.
It's very hot.
Terrible. I'm afraid I'm gonna die.
And it doesn't really do much because like it moves kind of, but like it moves very slowly, and the crowd's just like, eh.
And then the engine dies.
And then everyone's just like, all right, we're out of here.
Rip.
Kaito's able to play against another cheater, and then a monopole falls from the sky, and he's like, huh? That's weird. I'm going to show this to Subaru and Akiho, and Akiho's like, what if we use this in a robot?
Well, he was showing it originally to him, and then
Akiho just like
like,
pops out of the behind a tree. He's like, hey.
hey, I followed you. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I gotta tell you two then.
So basically, they have that whole conversation. Then they go to JAXA, and Nai's like, hey, do you want to do another robot again? And then Akiho gets on board this time. They're basically just going to make a more improved robot. They're going to make it look like Gunbarrel through AR and everything. And they're going to do it for the big like Robot
can,
Expo.
like, yes. They're gonna follow like Subaru's plans because he has a lot of like good plans in terms of like the weight and the distribution and all that. But she was really determined, like it has to look like Gunbarrel, has to look like that. And so the AR thing comes up because of the whole like kitty cat ears.
Which basically Subaru like kind of takes the idea of like hobby robot building and applying it to like big robot building, just to make it so it's like not a huge bulking thing, so they can save weight, like you said, and make it a lot like slimmer and everything, so it's not just like a big huge thing like the original robot was. Meanwhile, Mizuka, the lady at the convenience store, goes and sees Irie and is like, hey, get out of here. Get out of here.
She does not want her around. She like specifically went looking for her like after hearing about it and had to get a phone for her, like, or did she borrow the phone? Because she gets a phone at one point, but
I think she borrowed it from the teacher. She
borrows it so she could specifically go talk to her at this point. It's like, whoa, you are determined. Because she's like, yeah, I'm not a technology person. Also, I guess it's worth mentioning, we haven't mentioned it yet. because of the solar flare in 2015, she ended up getting into a motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so she's technically like paralyzed from the waist down, but she has a thing called a hug, that essentially serves as like her legs, and so she can walk, and she's can stand up and all.
And it's robotics
Um,
and all that sort of stuff.
Robotics, and it was given to her by Akio's older sister,
Mm-hmm.
who works for that company.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't mentioned that at all. That's pretty important.
Yes. Well, now we have.
Yay. I help.
The last episode of Gun Barrel gets leaked,
Yep.
which is not good because like it's a weird kind of like it's all a bunch of like keyframes essentially
Yep.
interspliced together, and it's like just about the destruction of the world,
Yep.
which Kaito sees or gets like learns about, and it's kind of like that sounds familiar.
Kind of matches the reports. I should probably find more reports.
Yeah. He's also able to beat another cheater, but then the software that they're using gets infected with a virus. They're like, that's weird.
Yep.
They used Juna to record motions for the new robot because they wanted to do cool karate stuff.
Yep.
And then Kaito and Frau have to like go out to the beach and to unlock the third report because they have to do like very specific things. And he kind of like takes her with him to make sure he can do both at the same time.
Turns out she's terrible at stacking rocks.
It's true.
So he has to do both of them
Mhm.
by himself.
The third report talks about the Committee 300 wants to use a solar storm to alter the Earth, essentially, use it to eliminate a bunch of people and everything. Drone research, like all this had started in 2012, and a lot of it had been done by a lot of like the people in charge of robotics, including the Exoskeleton Incorporation, which is where, like you said, Akiho's sister Misaki works.
Ba-ba-bum.
Later on, Frau tells Kaito, hey, we removed the top 3 players from Kill Ballad because turns out they've been dead for half a year.
Yep. She sent people to their houses to check on them, and they were dead in front of their computers.
Mm-hmm. And they'd been dead for a while.
Yeah. And I forget, one of them died of starvation because he's like, people die of starvation still. But like they all had odd deaths. Like I think one was just some kind of like exhaustion type thing. But anyway, it wasn't like foul play per se. Like it's not like they were shot dead or anything. They just had like, oh, they've been dead for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Things are bad.
After that, the final episode of Gun Barrel is officially leaked to everyone. So that's where you get to see kind of like, oh, it's a solar flare being used to destroy the world and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think after this, like, Kaito calls up Misaki, like, or like leaves a message for her. It's like, what do you know about the Kimijima reports? And then she immediately calls back, which is very weird, rare, because she has not contacted anyone in the last like 6 years.
Yep.
And immediately she's just like, don't get involved in this. Stop looking into it. And he's like, nah.
Well, now I really have to keep looking into it.
Gotta keep going. So he goes and basically starts looking for the fourth report. Doc gets taken to the hospital, and Juna and everyone goes there to see him, but he's like, no, I don't want to see anyone.
So I think that this is something that's interesting about this game, is that this is where we get our first like route per se. But all the routes are canon and lead up to the final route. And I think that that's a really cool thing that they do, that there's not like an actual like alternative ending here. It's just everything builds on each other, but you're getting more information about these characters that you don't have a lot about yet. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, because Steins Gate has a bunch of multiple endings and all that sort of stuff, but for the most part, most of them are just like non-canon little stuff that adds to the story.
Yep.
While this is mostly like, you know, you have to do this to get to the next part, and all of this goes in line with each other. So it's all like stuff that is relevant to the plot and, is stuff that happened. It's not just like, oh, just because you got this ending doesn't mean it didn't take place.
Right. Everything here takes place.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first one is the Juno route. And yeah, like you said, Doc's like, no, I'm not seeing anybody. Me.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a grumpy old man.
Yeah. Then they learned that he wants to close the robot clinic, which is his robot shop, and like how he used to like feature robots outside and everything. And then one fell on Juna that caused her to have a big fear of robots. And also he kind of started like shutting himself out from doing like any sort of stuff like that.
Yeah, and he like puts all the robots back that he used to have outside.
Juna tries to quit, and Akio's like, no. You gotta like one robot, and then you can quit if you want.
I will not accept your resignation.
Yeah. And she basically comes with the idea to like try and cheer up Doc by fixing up the robots, which Kaito also needs one of them for one of his like requirements for the next report. So he's like, sure, I will come along and help.
Yay. Can you tell me which one is this guy? They're like, no, how will we know that? We gotta really find that guy. We gotta fix him.
The one robot they fix up is the one that fell on Juna, so when like they show her, she's like, ah.
Yeah, because he talks, and he was talking the whole time he fell on her, and she's like, nope, no.
So she basically wants to quit again, but Kaito finds like a photo in the shop of like her, Doc, and the robot all happy together, and like shows it to her. And then they bring Doc to the clinic where all the robots are out, and some kids are like, oh, look at these, they're old robots. Wild. He basically talks about how like he kind of shut himself out and did all that, like destroyed the robots himself because he blamed himself for what happened to Juna that day. And then he sees Juna controlling the one robot, and they're able to like kind of finally come together with their relationship for the first time in like a decade, essentially.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, he was the one who destroyed him, because that's one thing that Akio realized. She's like, all of these look like they've had like their line just cut with scissors. Like that's kind of weird. But yeah, Doc was mad at himself for allowing, in quotation marks, the robots to hurt somebody he cared about. So he destroyed them all himself with the skizzers.
Skizzers.
But now he's like, no, now we're fine. Yay.
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 In the meantime, Frau has just been locked up in her house, or in her, just by herself.
As you do.
As you do. They go to Doc and are like, hey, you want to use some monopoles with the engines for the second robot? And he's like, sure. Cool. Kaito reads the fourth report, which talks about Project Atom, which is like this big robot rebellion that's going to take place. Eventually they get Frau to like help program some stuff for it, and her and Kaito kind of go over like some stuff that was in the leaked Gunbearer episode, which is like these subliminal messages with like these hidden images in there with like with a message and everything. They find all like these like pictures of an abandoned building which have like alphabet letters on them, and then like you put them together, it makes it like it's a password for a website, which was a website that her mom had made. And the message like that you unlock is basically says like, Gunveil is propaganda, terrorists are going to attack us, I'm trying to run away and stop them, but I can't do this, help, people are dead, Project Atom's a thing. Kaito's like, uh-oh. And then he gets the fifth report, which basically talks about how once they get a big solar flare, like Earth's magnets are going to freak out and everything. And that's how they're going to try and take out a bunch of the population. Bad things are happening. And then a solar storm hits the Kanto region, which causes a bunch of robots to freak out.
Yep.
And then Frau goes on her, like, gets a call and is like, from someone's like, why would you put that on Twitter and everything? That's so rude. She's like, what are you talking about? I haven't posted anything on Twitter today. What's going on? So someone like hacked her Twitter account and was like, I'm the one who did this. I leaked the episode and everything. Blah, blah, blah. So he sees like Kaito goes like finds out about this and sees what happens and like goes to Frau's house and everything and it's like she's not answering. I'm gonna break open this door, like the glass door, and rush in, and then like finds her in her like bathroom with a box cutter in her hand and blood like leaking out of her.
No, there's no blood.
I thought there was like a little bit, which like made him
No,
think that like oh something bad had happened.
no. He realized afterwards that there was no blood, that she was just like passed out. He just thought that there was blood, and he's like, "Oh, she's dead. Okay,
Yeah, and
well,
then she's like,
that sucks."
hey,
He's like, "Oh, I guess you're not dead. All right."
I'm gonna get you out of the bath because you're like freezing to death.
Yep. Yeah, she keeps her hotel very, very cold.
Yep. So after that, she explains to Kaito like how like the robots were hacked and everything because like the place that they hacked the robots are like on a cloud server, so they're able to get in. But like once you get in there, you can easily walk in and get access into the server, but it's locked behind a kill ballad round.
Yep.
And
It's
essentially,
a bot.
it's a bot that takes the three cheater bots and throws them all together into one.
Yep.
So that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so now Kaito is like, "Hey,
I gotta
I
do
gotta beat this
this.
guy."
Not because I want to help you, because it's about honor.
And he repeats multiple times, like, "This isn't about you. This is about me winning." And I'm like, "Oh my God, dude. Like, she was going to legit kill herself." And you're like, "I don't actually care about you. I only care about getting first. That's all
Mm-hmm.
I care about." Like, oh my God, you suck so bad, dude.
So he basically like stays up like all night trying to win and just fails, and basically like he stays up more because he's trying to induce an attack on himself,
Mm-hmm.
but like can't do it. Um, Frau eventually gets like a call from the person who hacked everything, and it's like one of the people she works with, this dude named Magoyan, and he mentions like, "Oh, I was blackmailed. My family was taken hostage and everything. This is why I did all this stuff. They're going to attack the offices in Tokyo and everything." And then Kaito kind of thinks like, this is weird and everything. But also like Frau's like, wait a minute, you don't have a wife or kids. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like
That's not real.
you told me at this thing that we were at recently that you were a virgin.
So
He's
Kaito
like,
kind of like,
"No, no, I have a kid. I think
yeah.
it's a boy or a girl. No, it's a boy. It's a boy."
So Kaito basically assumes like, oh, he's been brainwashed,
Yeah.
which is one of the things that was brought up in the reports and everything.
Yep.
Frau basically talks about how like why she wanted to create Kill
Nope.
Ballad. What?
Sorry, Loki tried to step on the laptop.
Oh, I was like, what did I do wrong?
No, 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 no. Loki was trying to step on the laptop, and I didn't want him to like shut something down accidentally.
It's true. So Frau talks about why she created Kill Ballad because, like, you know, it's tied to Gunbarrel. That's the thing her mom made. She wanted to keep it alive. She didn't want it to become like dead media and everything, and that's why she chose Gunbarrel as like the thing to create her game off of and everything. And then the police show up,
Yep.
and like
Because
they
like,
did.
"Hey, you did some hackies."
We need to talk to you. So like they basically have to like buy time in order for Kaito to try and win this match, which involves Frau just like, electrocuting him in order to have an
Yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
And eventually he's able to do it like right as like they bust in.
I do think it's funny they have an entire conversation. He's like, "Oh, I could, torture you with some BDSM stuff." And "If you actually own that, I don't think we could be friends anymore." And she pulls this out, and he's like, I'm not sure that counts, but okay. Also, there is a point where they're hanging out and they're trying to beat this thing. It's not really hanging out. And he keeps like dunking himself in the cold bath.
Mm-hmm.
And like at one point he just like walks in naked and she's like, which worth mentioning, she's a freaking perv. I've mentioned that before, but she's like super, super perv. And like the big thing that she really wants is like Kaito, and she calls him Four Eyes. She
Mhm.
like ships them real hard.
She
It's
does.
real weird, and also she's obsessed with someone taking advantage of her, and there's a lot going on with this girl, and she needs therapy.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all I'm getting out of this is this girl needs therapy.
Yes. But they're able to fix everything, shut down the robots. Frau smooches him.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
weird.
you get a report like a week later that the guy who did the original hacking was like friends with her was found dead in the Philippines.
Rip.
And then Frau starts going to school so she can help them out.
I realized that we forgot to mention the one like really weird ending
The Nye
for
ending.
yeah, that one was weird.
Yeah, because it's not in the anime apparently.
Yeah, we're kind of going off of that for some reason, but yeah, it was a weird ending because like he acts like he's somewhat like romantically interested in her, and then he realizes like no,
It's
I
a
just
sister
want to.
complex.
It's a sister complex, and I just want to play kill ballad against her because
Mm-hmm.
she's good. Um, and it's just a very very bizarre, I guess, side part of the story. I'm like,
Which
what
is
is
weird as well because like
happening?
that's the first ending you're probably going to get with this game because like it's basically the general route ending
Yeah.
because everything else you have to like do very specific things to in order to progress to them.
Yep.
Whereas this, you're just gonna kind of like run into it regardless,
Yep.
and you get that, and you're like, huh, all
It's
right.
weird. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it's not really relevant at all to anything else. Like the rest of these feel like they're building up to something, and that one's just like, oh, cool, I have a sister complex.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. Anyway,
So yeah, we get more solar flares happening. Irie starts being weird.
she glitchy
She's very glitchy, just showing up wherever. And
and
then
like
there's going to be
talking about weird stuff.
mhm.
Like,
And there's going to be like Iroh maintenance on like Christmas Eve, and everyone freaks out because like, oh, that could erase her, because they can just be like, well, we don't know what this is, so let's get rid of it.
yeah, because she's not an official application.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, oh, it could be like considered a virus or something,
Mm-hmm.
just deleted.
So yeah, we also get like things of like her saying like she had like had an illness and stuff like that, and like lived life and all this sort of stuff, and it's like that
And her
doesn't
house was
seem
nearby.
yeah.
He's
So
like, were you programmed to have a personality like beyond this? Were you programmed to the backstory? She's like, huh?
huh?
What?
So he gets the sixth report, which talks about the mass brainwashing that the Committee 300 wants to do. Irie wants to go to Kimijima's house, which he's able to find, which is the same building that the weird subliminal images that were hidden in the final Gunvero episode were.
Yo, when we got there and I saw that, I was like, oh my God, it's that building. Because they kept saying, like, no one can find this building. People have been looking at abandoned buildings all over
Mm-hmm.
Japan and have not found this building. Then we got there, I was like, we found it.
Found it. So he goes there and like finds like a little basement hatch, goes
Yep.
downstairs, and there's like a door like in the abandoned building in the park. Opens it up, and there's like this almost like a coffin type apparatus,
Yep.
and he like somehow like slides like a window open, and there's an actual Irie there,
Yep.
a human version.
Yep.
And then like the AI kind of like explains like, oh, the real one had a incurable illness. She met Ko Kimijima, and basically he put her into cryosleep so she would wake up later and she could get cured.
Yep.
And then created this AI version so she could experience the world. Kaito's like, I'm gonna tell the police about this because this is real messed up.
I can't just leave her here.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. Anyways, we go to Christmas Eve midnight, where Frau sends a program to him so it can snow in the program because she really wants a white Christmas.
Yep.
And then she asks Kaito for a kiss, and he smooches his screen.
His phone droid, yeah. This is hilarious.
So
And he's
Irie,
like, oh God, this is embarrassing.
oh very, Irie disappears, but Gejine stays around
Mm-hmm.
for the time being. So after that, we kind of fast forward through New Year's. where they are able to complete the basic build of the second robot.
Yep.
They use the monopole motors, a laser activated system to power up the batteries and everything, go through its first activation test and everything. And then afterwards, Nye's like, hey, you got to get out of here because we're going to launch a rocket for the first time in years. And they're like, oh, okay.
Get out of here.
Kaito goes off to search for like the last report. The others are doing tests of the robot on the old airport runway.
Yep.
And Juna's like, there's something weird about the walk cycle. This seems really weird. So Subaru's like, all right, okay, let me just like, I'll walk in front of it, see if I can see what you're seeing and everything, and we'll figure this out. And then a sudden gust of wind blows because it's very windy that day, and the robot falls over and falls on him.
I was like, oh no, he's gonna die.
Yep. Very bad. At this Cape area, Kaito finds the 7th report, but then he's confronted by Mizuka, who also has the first report now, and it's like, hey, stop looking into this. This is very bad. And then Kagome plays on their phones. And he's like, oh crap. She answers the call and there's a bunch of static again. And he's like, you shouldn't answer that. No.
Nope.
That static basically causes her legs to freak out and malfunction and makes her start walking towards the cliff. And he's like trying desperately to like hold her back and make her like not walk and like knocking her to the ground and everything. But the legs are just like,
and he's even like tried to like unstrap them from her legs. He said that like once her legs did the like bringing up thing, like he heard something crack in her. He's like, oh god.
So basically, like it just keeps moving her towards the edge of the cliff, and she like knocks him away and is like, hey, tell Misaki thank you for the legs.
Help me live my life.
Yeah. And also like as she's dying, she's basically like, well, now I'll take this secret to my grave, essentially.
Yep.
So she falls to her death, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know that she's dead yet, but she is dead.
It's real messed up.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, her legs are in like all kinds of different directions, and I don't think that's yikes.
So he goes to the hospital, and like everyone else is there, and he doesn't know why they're there. And they're like, "Oh,
did you already hear about this somehow? How did you do
got
that?"
his leg broken." He's like, "What is going on?" And then basically he runs into the teacher there and like has to tell him like, "Hey, this happened. It's bad. Bad news." Also, apparently the anime diverges here at points.
Oh.
Which is weird.
Okay.
Interesting. Anyways, so yeah. After that, the Robotics Club is very much disbanded.
Yeah, and like everybody's like, "Oh no, we should have had it all around. That's a problem." And I do think that the whole relationship with the teacher and Musica is interesting because like they even ask him at one point like, "Did you love her?" And he's like, "I don't know. I was kind of scared of her, but like she was my friend and we went to school together and I really cared about her." And I was like, "Oh, sad."
So yeah, eventually like you learn she dies and everything. They go to a funeral about it. He pours the teacher pours some like alcohol in the ocean for her.
She's a surfer gal.
And then afterwards, like Akiho, it's like, hey, I want to still build the robot. I want to take it to the expo myself, even though we can't do it as the club. So Kaito's like, well, I'll help you if you beat me in Kill Ballad. And then like the canon way to do it is to actually let her win.
Yeah.
And as such, he's like, all right, I will help you. But like also like Doc helps, the teacher helps, and they're able to basically work on the robot and get it over to the expo. Also, at some point, he finds the 7th report, downloads it, which is like the text is all just like the password hidden hand. And like, but once he does that and like opens it up, it sends it out to everyone else in the world with a phone droid.
Yep. Everybody gets all the reports 1 through 6.
Well, they have to like find them.
Do they?
Yes. Because I think like if you look through Twitter, afterwards there's people talking about like, oh, I got to do this condition for the report and everything. Like, oh, this condition sucks. All that sort of stuff.
Because it sends out the
conditions.
geotags,
Hmm.
but not the very specific conditions, I don't think, because
But
you
there
wouldn't
are
be able to.
conditions to it that you have to do in order
Right,
to
right,
unlock
because
every
you
report.
wouldn't be able to do all the ones that he did
No.
everywhere else. But yeah, I know that it sent them like out. Because like, hey, imagine if you were like US and you're just like, oh hey, go take these very specific things in this one Japanese
Yeah.
area. Yay!
And then like
That's
you'll constantly see like Gejine reporting like, all right, this part
the
of the world
percentage.
has done this percentage of the reports and everything, and so on and
Yep.
so forth.
So we're making a robot.
Hmm. So they head to Tokyo, and like I think it's like February now. Kaito and
Mhm.
Agiho go. They have an actual like hotel
And their
room this
teacher.
time. Teacher goes, and then Mr. Candy goes as well because he's like paying for a lot of the stuff.
Okay, so we have to talk about this. The teacher gets them a hotel room,
Mhm.
a really nice hotel room, and they legit did the trope, like the fanfic trope of there's only one bed,
Yep.
and I was just dying laughing. Like, oh my god, they did it! They did the thing. So yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we could sleep in the same bed. It's fine.
Hmm. So they have that and everything. Kaito has nightmares about uh Mizuki, Mizuka,
Musica.
and
And
Akiho's like,
how he couldn't
"Hey,
help.
you want to tell me about your troubles?" And he's like, "No, not really." They go to the event expo and like prepare a little bit, are able to get the robot to work and everything. And then like the first day comes and it doesn't work because
Nope.
Akiho wired things wrongly, and then like someone just comes up and like throws stuff at her.
Yep. Because he's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't be using gun barrel because it's a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
She like defends gun barrel. Yeah, like knocks her off the ladder, right?
Yeah.
And also kicks the VP because they have the tiny robot with them too.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh man, he just got kicked. I gotta go find him.
There's also like a big spider robot that the exoskeleton people are showing off there. And then
Scooter.
a few days after the fact, like Akiho gets interviewed by some like news reporters and everything, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, your sister's gonna show up. Have you managed to talk to her yet?" And he's like, "Huh, my sister? What?"
They're like, oh, you didn't know that.
Oh.
Cut. Sorry, we didn't mean to throw that
We
on
gotta
you.
go.
Sorry.
So basically, she gets very excited and wants to go see her, and Kaito's kind of like, I mean, I also need to see her as well because things are bad. This is very weird. They eventually like learn that like, oh, she's been seen in like in the employee sections essentially. So like they sneak off to go find her, and she's like in this like white jumpsuit essentially,
Yeah, the
and
piloting suit.
she's very weird and like very stilted when she talks to them. She
Mhm.
only talks to Akiho as well. Like
Yeah, she
Kaito will
will
say
not talk to
things and
Kaito.
she does not say anything to him. And then like her boss Sawada shows up with a gun on her and is like,
Mm.
"Hey, what are you doing here?" And Kaito's like,
And
Like-
Kaito thinks that it's because of him and the reports.
but it's not. He's after Misaki, and he like
Yep.
shoots Misaki, but she just keeps coming at him, and like it doesn't phase her.
Yep.
And he's just like, "Uh-oh." So like stuff happens. Kaito eventually gets the gun and everything, points it at Sawada, and is just like, "Hey, get out of here."
And Akiho runs after her sister.
Mm-hmm. Who Misaki jumps into the robot and starts raging terror in the expo.
Destroying all the other robots.
Akiho basically tries to fight back with Gun Build 2, but Misaki just cuts it in half.
Yep.
And Akiho's like, "Why would she do that? That's my sister. Why would she do this to me?" And basically has like an attack.
Yep.
They go outside, and basically what seems to be a solar flare happens right at the venue. And like there's this big obelisk that shows up, and
Yep.
Kaito's like, "Wait, this is what happened at the final Gun Barrel episode. This is not good.
That's the elevator.
That's very bad."
And so like all the news is like, oh man, this entire area of town is just completely obliterated. It's underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Things are terrible. And he's like, no.
So like yeah, he's able to get Akiho away from the venue. He runs into Mr. Candy and everything. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And like I think he's the one who's like tells Kaito like, look through Iroh on your phone real quick. Like it's real weird.
It looks worse than it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like they start to kind of, or like he kind of starts to piece together like things are not right here. Like someone's really messing with things. Like this isn't what's going on. He
Yep.
goes back into like he leaves Akiho with Mr. Candy and everything, and like goes back into the venue to see if anything's there or if he can find Mitsuki. But he runs into Sawada, who's like been
He's injured.
injured of some sort with his leg. Pulls
But
like
he's
the gun
treated
back
his
out
leg.
and is like, "Hey, tell me what you know." And
Yep.
Sawada's like, "All right, I will tell you everything I know." Bad.
Yep. Yep.
They're trying to do Project Adam. It's real messed up. Also, they're going to launch a black hole bomb with that rocket that they're trying to shoot off in your hometown. Someone stole that from CERN, which,
Mm.
And then also, like, Misaki works for the Committee of 300, essentially.
Yep. Yep.
And he had been trying to work with her to, like, take down the Committee of 300, but then she was, like, working with them, so she was just feeding him false information. And
Yep.
he works with a bunch of people on the side, supposedly, like, S. Braun and Dash,
Dash.
who obviously we learn later on are Nai and Daru.
Yeah.
So he's basically the whole time you go into this thinking like, oh, he's definitely a bad guy, because they also say like, oh, he has ties to the Committee of 300 because like one of his relatives.
His dad, he's the illegitimate son of a guy who's on the Committee of 300.
But then basically afterwards you're like, no, he's literally working against them. He's definitely an ally.
Yep. And there have been hints that Mizuki's done some things. Like they talked about at one point, like Mizuka's talking about how after they got off the boat and they were taken to the hospital, she like ran into Mizuki there, and she's like, yeah, she was like in her school uniform, but her skirt was torn and she was just covered in blood. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I'm not gonna say anything.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on. So we've kind of known that something was shady with Mizuki for a while. We just didn't know what. And then this guy's like, oh yeah, she's with the baddies. We still don't know what all the blood thing was about yet, but
we will very soon.
We will very soon find out.
So yeah, Sawada basically just unveils everything and is like, yeah, you need to go back home because
here's an info dump.
She's there. She's trying to shoot off that black hole bomb into the sky and cause a solar flare and basically enact Project Adam. And if you don't stop it, we're doomed.
Yep.
So yeah, he leaves. Basically, he doesn't believe it at first, but then eventually kind of starts to like, okay, yeah, yeah. And then he finds Akiho, who's very just distraught and everything. She doesn't want to do anything. And basically it's like, all right, well, I'm leaving, so you just deal with this shit here.
Yep.
I'm going to go see your sister. And then she's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm coming with you.
Yep. Teacher's like, I can help you.
Frau learns inadvertently that Ko Kimijima was linked to her mom's death, and then like a bunch of soldiers like run in and attack her. But then she gets rescued by Nai, who just like beats the crap out of them.
Yay.
Does all that. I believe someone gets in touch with teacher comes with a car and is like,
yeah, that's
hey,
what I'm saying. His teacher helps.
We gotta go. He picks up Kaito, Akiho, and Mr. Candy and takes them to a smaller airport because he got told by Nai to do this.
He was originally Kaito was like, yeah, we gotta go the other way. What are you doing? He's like, no, I got this.
We can't go to those other airports. They're closed down. There's another airport here though that we can go to. So like they go there and everything, and then like they're going to get on this little Cessna plane, which Kaito's dad is piloting.
Yep.
He's like, Dad!
It's interesting because they had set that up and he's like, man, this is wild because like Dad flew all this way without knowing whether his plane was actually going to operate with a solar flare and everything. Thanks, Dad.
Because like Nai gets a hold of him and is like, hey, you got to go to Tokyo now and get them.
Yeah.
But then like they're about to get on the plane and they get accosted by human Irie, who Kaito had seen. He went to like the hospital and went to see her and everything.
Yep.
Because like that's where they took her human body and everything after
And she doesn't recognize him, obviously.
Which she's been brainwashed. She's also singing Kagome Kagome. And then they look through the phone droid and Koki Majima is standing next to her in the app. And he's like, hey, I uploaded my mind to this network. I'm immortal.
Data now.
I'm Data.
His motives are complex.
Very. Teacher just began streaming this for whatever reason. And Koki Majima is like, hey, do you know that boat incident? Yeah, that was me. I wanted to do this experiment to like see if I could do radiation on people or just kill them, whichever. I don't care. And then Misaki came and murdered me because she learned that you guys were on that boat. She didn't want you to die.
She bashed his skull in with a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
But he had already like uploaded part of his like memories to the network and everything. So he's not a complete version of himself.
No.
But then he basically started like haunting Misaki essentially. And so much so like that he was able to like convince her to start doing things for him. And that's why she's been doing bad things now.
Yep. He's basically like made her go crazy.
Mm-hmm. And then Akiho just like yells at him, is like, hey, robots are cool. I'm going to save them.
Justice.
Take that. And then like Mr. Candy's parakeet takes the gun away from Irie. And they're able to like take her away and get her in the plane and head back to home. Which they get home and then like everyone's at the old hangar that they all hang out with. They saw Akiho's speech and all like ran together. So like Subaru has been like out this whole time because his leg got broken. Juna has been out because like she thinks she's responsible for everything. So like she's like, I gotta quit the club. I can't see anyone from this. Nai's there because like she helps Frau and everything. And then Teacher's also there as well. But Subaru and Juna are able to like make up and everything, and while they're there because they saw the speech and they're like, we gotta help. So they all come together to fix the original robot.
The one with the thick legs.
Yeah, so they put like monopole motors on it and everything, and then they like come together to like put a bunch of the like the pole arm stuff from.
They make him a little less thick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they put the pile drivers in his arms because his arms were like paper mache before and fake.
Yes.
Although like they have to attach these like one of them on the move, which is wild. It shows like how rushed they are to get this done, and like a lot of their classmates show up to help, and like the vice principal shows up with a bunch of the teachers and like, here are snacks.
Also, fill out these forms because you need to be a club for us to help you.
Yep. Please fill out these because
it's funny because like she shows up and Kaito's like, why are you here? We've already been through enough. Go away. And she's like, you have to fill all these forms out so you can be recognized as a club again so we can help you. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she originally is like, yeah, you have to sign this now. And he's like, no, I'm not doing any of that. And she's like, maybe you should read it before you get mad at me. He's like, oh, okay, we'll sign. We're good. Thank you. Goodbye. Sorry. Well, thank you for the stacks.
So yeah, they all basically the entire like just everyone comes together.
And the other like mechanics from the island come together because they previously have refused to help much. So everybody comes in. They're like, all right, we have to
get this done because we're on a time limit because like in like the next day or so we need to get this finished or they're going to set off that rocket.
Yeah, it can't go off in the rain, and it's raining, and it's supposed to be clear the next day. And also, like when they land at the airport, like the landing gear just doesn't work. So Dad just like lands on the belly of the plane.
Hey, this is gonna be a rough landing.
And then he's like, at one point out there apologizing to the plane. He's like, I'm sorry.
Kaito's dad is just cool, calm, and collected.
Right? He's just
the whole time.
And it's cute because he's always like, Kaito, I'm proud of you. He says it multiple times. I'm like, oh,
Dad, you're embarrassing me.
It's so cute. Kaito's dad's awesome.
It's true.
Even though we never actually see him and we hear maybe like 10 lines from him.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, everyone comes together to work on the robot. Um, they get a new version of the IRO network called DG297 3rd edition version 4.11 that one of Sawada's associates gave to him so they would be off the network so they couldn't be tracked by Kimijima essentially.
Mm-hmm. And he's also saying like we're working on an anti-Kojima
virus. Also, Sawada gave Kaito like a electromagnetic wave emitter, so like he can make illusions essentially, which is what's basically happening here. So to cause people to think like, oh, that place got destroyed essentially. So he like leaves to go get it like analyzed and stuff. Also to go back to like the abandoned building, and
it's like a battery pack from the thing,
and like shuts down the one machine because Irie's like, here's how you can do it, and he's like, huh? While they like him and Nai show up there with Irie, when they show up there, Genji Nei shows up by the tower with a bunch of droids, like just with guns on them, and Koki Mijima's like, "Hey, kill him!" And Genji Nei's like, "I don't want to."
No, I think I'm good.
I'm gonna help my human self. Here's a little thing I'm gonna give you guys. All right, cool. Later, I'm gonna disappear now because I'm getting deleted. Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, 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 blah. That's the sound of what happens when you get deleted. Also, Misaki's on the island now. She goes to pay her respects to Misaka and then tries to kill herself, but Koki Mijin is like, nah, not letting you. Not. And she's basically like starts like, oh, how much of me is actually me? How much of it is Kimijima? This is all very bad. It's very bad.
It's not
good. And then basically they are able to finish up the robot build. Kaito gets to be the operator, and you get to see the scene from like the very beginning of the game, but now this time with context.
Yep.
Which is interesting. And they have to go up against the spider robot.
Yep.
Because that's Misaki, she's guarding it, and he basically is like, I gotta fight her because I need to face her one-on-one again and beat her this time.
I gotta be number one. He also like alters that thing that he got so that he can trigger the slow-mo anytime, but he gives the button to Akiho. He's like, I trust you. Whenever I say do it, you do it. Do not hesitate. You gotta do it.
Yep.
And she's like, no, I don't want to hurt you. And he's like, do it. Do it. Do it. She's like, oh no.
Also, they smooch before.
Oh yes, they do kiss on the runway. You get a little smoochy smooch.
But that brings us to like the big day where like it takes like so long for them to get to the actual place they need to go. And like you said, they attached one of the other pile bunkers onto the arm because it was still being basically fixed up right up to the deadline. And he's able to fight against the spider robot essentially.
It's a big mess of a fight because there's a lot of just like standoffs and weird
button pressing.
Yeah. At one point she like gets a sword like into part of the gun build, and like he bleeds, but he doesn't, like nothing bad happens.
He uses his slow-mo a lot.
A lot.
So like the spider robot is like one, and then like there's a smaller robot inside, and that's the one that gives him a lot of problems because it's really fast and is able to outmaneuver his slow-mo.
Yep.
That's the one that really like messes him up. But then they're also able to get the virus out in time, which they're able to like open up the cockpit, or like he's able to kind of goad her into opening up the cockpit, and then like they're able to shoot the virus at Koki Majima.
Yeah, because you have to be able to see him in order for it to work. And also, like part of the issue here is that he ends up with like 5 minutes of battery life because she attacks the vehicle with everybody in it that they were using to laser him power. And he's like, well, guess I gotta do this in 5 minutes then. Yay! Also, they have to reboot in the middle of the fight, which is terrifying. Oh man. And he's like, I hope she doesn't notice. I hope she doesn't notice. Oh god, I think she's noticing. Oh god, she's noticing. Oh god.
a lot of this final fight was very just like robot anime tropes where like, protagonist is going to do something very dumb and suicidal to save everyone, save the planet and all that sort of stuff. Robot's going to get just absolutely battered and destroyed to a point where like you think they're just completely done and dead.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to like use everything in their power, like everything in their robot's ability to like stop their opponent essentially, which is all just like stuff that happens throughout this final fight and everything. So like watching through this, I was just like, yeah, this all makes sense. This is all, typical robot anime stuff.
Yeah, I didn't get any of those references. I just thought it was a build up, and um yeah, it's some crazy things like her dad was taken hostage,
Mm-hmm.
and like they were able to save him, and the problem is that Nai was supposed to be like the one who infiltrates and shuts down the launch, but
It's blocked
um
by Kimijima.
yeah, Kimijima's like, yeah, I'm actually the admin for that, so no.
So they need to use that virus to stop him in order to stop the launch as well. So like they do it
And
like
so they
just in the
stop
nick of
it.
time.
Yep. Yay.
Yay.
So we've got a pretty battered robot and a pretty battered Kaito,
Mm-hmm.
and um but everybody's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
They all just
like
drive back to the hangar and everyone's there like, yay, robot club.
yeah, like they've got the robot back in pieces like on trucks, and they're just like riding together, and yay. And then it just ends.
And then this ends.
And like both of us were expecting, well, I didn't expect anything because you had already told me that it didn't happen, but I was like, there's nothing? Really?
But yeah, like I was like, because like Steins Gate has like the big post credits thing and also has like, the credits fake out
yeah.
in its, true ending route. So I was expecting like something of that nature to occur. But it's just like, hey, you did the thing, everyone's happy. Here's your happy ending.
Woo.
That's it. I was like, huh. All right. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So now we have Dash to play to see like what ends up happening with our kids here. But
Mm-hmm.
um
Which Dash is still 2020, but it's like summer 2020.
yeah. It's 6 months later.
Yeah, so like there's a few things that have changed, obviously. And also like the big change of that game is that you are playing as Daru, not
Yep.
Kaito.
Yep.
So I have not gotten
It's-
super far into that. I think I got to like the first like chapter title,
mm-hmm.
and then I stopped because obviously Ace Attorney was coming out. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to play through this in time.
Yep, same.
But I just wanted to see a little bit of it, and like I'm very curious to see where that game goes.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it's like actually a whole lot of like, just or if it's more fan servicey or if it's a lot actually like here's drama to that's going to happen, because obviously like it is a side game technically, but also a sequel side game,
And it's canon.
and it's canon. So like I'm interested to see what exactly is going to happen there, and also like the way the opening video shows, like there's a lot of Steins Gate references in it.
Yeah.
And like obviously like the Twitter you get is all like people from Steins Gate talking to Daru and everything. So like I wonder
Yep.
how much
Match.
of that game gets tied into this, or what exactly is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like he's already mentioned his wife and kids, so
Mhm.
like we know all that's going on. Um, yeah, I'm interested to see like what ends up happening with it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what to expect. I don't know if we're gonna get like some more resolution on things, or like what's really gonna happen here. And we know that like obviously Nai and Daru were working with Sawada, is that his name?
Mhm.
So like maybe some context on that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we get.
Yeah. We'll eventually get to that. It's going to be a little bit before we are able to dive fully into that. But eventually we will talk about that in the near future.
Yes. So what did you think overall?
I like this game. I don't think I think like you said when we finished it, or when you finished it, I don't think it's necessarily as good as Steins Gate.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's enjoyable and good, but
Yeah.
like Steins Gate is a very like
It's a high
to
bar.
clear. Yeah. But I think this is still very enjoyable, and I think a lot of your enjoyment as well is going to be predicated on like, how much are you a fan of robot stuff? Like you're gonna get you're gonna get more enjoyment out of it if you are like those tropes and are a fan of it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it, and I don't know any of that, so. Again, it's not as good as Steins Gate, but that's a really hard thing to do. So
yeah.
But I mean, I liked most of the characters that weren't us. Like all the other characters were great. Kaito was just
yeah.
It's like, God, you need to like grow up, dude. He at least seems less insufferable in what I've seen so far of Dash.
Yeah.
Which, thank God, 6 months of apparently near-death experience did a lot of good for him.
Can only hope.
Yeah, I can, how long do you think this boy slept after doing so many slow-mos?
I thought they mentioned it in the game.
Did they?
Maybe they don't. I don't remember. But it has to be a very long time.
Because they're like on the truck afterwards and he's really tired.
Yeah.
But like I imagine this dude is just like out. Rip.
Very out of it.
Yeah.
It's gonna go into hibernation.
I mean, I would love to go into hibernation,
you
honestly. I really would love that. Let me go into hibernation.
No.
Yay. But I'd be interested to see like if Dash does anything with like Mizuki and the ramifications of what she did and her responses to everything, and like if anything actually happens with her, because she did a lot of terrible things, and I'm wondering like, are they just gonna brush it all off because she's the sister and like was mind controlled, or
yeah,
like what they're gonna do with that? Because like
we will see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Sometime
eventually.
In the near future.
Not now though.
Not now. But I think that's gonna wrap this episode up.
Yeah, we are now Robot Club.
We are now the Robot Club. Yay.
Yay. Robots.
So there you go. If you would like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like this podcast, like Jared and I watch that podcast. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, and Hot Tubs and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast and bonus episodes as well.
Yay.
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 Next week, we'll talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
What exactly it'll be, probably Ace Attorney? I don't know. I don't know how long that game is, so maybe we will, maybe we won't.
Well, there's 2 of them, so
there's also 2 of them. You're right.
We might be able to talk about one.
That's what I was thinking. One of them at least.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
We'll see, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.